Everybody loves a Kirblog sometime. Everybody falls in love with Jack. Something in his beard just told me my sometime is now. Well, no, it was actually this past, I can't even say Saturday, these past several months worth. And the beard has been gone for a couple episodes now, so I guess that's even inaccurate. Whatever. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Oh my God.
We are in the wake of when Samurai Jack came back, which is what I'm calling this one. As promised, this is a little, I guess, semi-review and just sort of reminiscing on the good times of this major comeback. Of course, those of you who don't know, I did a two-part Kirblog back in March about my top 10 favorite episodes of the series. I did a little mini marathon semi-binge watch of not all the episodes, but a good majority of them. And so I wanted to talk about our lovely 10 episodes of a beautiful finale that we got, 12 years later, I think. Just, it's truly incredible. I'm joined by Jordan Lasco, who, hi. Welcome. Hi. You're another person who I can't believe I've never actually had on a Kirblog. You've done commentaries for Tome, but you've never actually been on one of these before. So sorry for taking 3 years to do that.
Nah, dude, you know how busy my schedule is, so it's no biggie.
As does mine. But I want to have you on board because as we've been catching up in between 20 million things since this year started, as we found out that we both love Samurai Jack very much.
Oh boy, do we.
Yeah, I guess, well, I gave kind of my little mini history about how I used to watch the show with my mom, who, as of the day that this Kirblog is going up, she just came to visit, actually. She hasn't been to LA in like a billion years, and she came to come out and see me for a little bit.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And we used to watch that show together when it was originally running on Cartoon Network, and she really liked it. So
that is lovely.
but I guess real quick, if you have anything to share regarding that, do you have like kind of a history of how you got into the show and memories of it, etc.?
Maybe not to the heartwarming extent of your story, but basically, oh boy, I mean, because cartoons during that era, I mean, it was just like a dynamite cast of just a bunch of really good era of cartoons, and Samurai Jack was just kind of it. Even as a kid, like, it looks so different to me in comparison to anything, and that still holds true today. Like, that show, I still feel has aged really well.
Yeah.
And I felt that even as a kid. I really think that show eventually did influence my art style a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was true for a lot of other people.
Oh, yeah.
Especially going into season 5 now. Just, I mean, obviously we're going to jump into that, but just really quick as a comparison, just seeing a show come back and then also keeping true to what it was in terms of the visual style made just not only nostalgia, but it just made me so happy.
Which I mean, truly comes back to, the fact that it's, not only Tartakovsky, but much of the staff and cast.
Yes, exactly.
All back. Not absolutely everybody, but like many of the key figures.
The core people that really made the show what it was. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and just having Genndy just be spearheading this again, that already gave me confidence in terms of, just having such a precious franchise come back like this. It's like I knew this was in good hands, and then you have all these other people coming back, and then they started like showing, little sneak peek interviews to tease people, and you're just like, oh my God, look at this art style. They're keeping it, but they're just making it more fresh.
Yeah. It's funny too. I don't remember if I. Oh God, I know. Every time I'm like, oh, I think I would have said this in another Kirblog as like my fucking catchphrase lately. I don't remember if I told the story on the top 10 one that I did, but I remember one of the first times I met Fred Siebert of Frederator, who was one of the people that worked with a lot of the early cartoon people from back in the 90s and early 2000s. Which, by the way, I want to point out too. A lot of people give shit to like the era of like what was around in the early 2000s, and like a lot of crappy stuff came out. I mean, there was a lot of really good stuff too, because early 2000s gave us Jack and like Avatar and a whole bunch of really good shit. So like, I don't know. I feel like that period of time gets a little bit of a, because you were saying that was a good era for cartoons, because it was, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, and I think that just goes to, I mean, I think it really depends on what people remember. Like, if you remember there just happened to be more stuff that you didn't like that outweighed stuff that you did like, then it seems like there's a much bigger abundance of like things you don't like.
Yeah.
But if you don't end up watching those things because you have no interest in them, but then you see these shows that like, put story like above and beyond anything else, and like really interesting and well-written characters, then you're gonna have a better time remembering that stuff. So
You're
I
gonna
think
have a good time.
it's all about perspective. In that
Yeah.
regard. Like every era has at least a gem. Of
Yeah,
some kind.
absolutely. Yeah, every year has a standout like show or movie or something.
Yeah, like there may be more than others in some cases where, like I said, you have multiple golden eras of like entertainment. So in this case, Samurai Jack, I feel like there was other stuff out, like you said, around that time as well. And then there's probably a bit of a lull because you're having to find new, fresh properties to fill out ones that are ending at the time. So
Well, it's interesting because what I was going to say before was so I met Fred Siebert, and Genndy came up in conversation, and this was I want to say like I think like late 2000s, maybe early like 2010s or so. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was like I think like towards the end of my college years, and I believe by that point, Symbionic Titan had started up, and I think it was still running. I believe it might have, or no, actually, you know what? No, you know what? I remember now. I'm sorry. I think it was after I finished college, and I believe that Titan had finished by that point. And because then Genndy went on to work on what the hell? Hotel Transylvania, the first one, and I believe he was like the seventh or eighth director that had gone through on that project, for years and years. I don't know how long the process was or whatever, but he was.
you could always look it up.
Yeah, but he like came in and saved the fucking day on that movie, and Fred was talking about that, and in that conversation, it was still up in the air about whether or not there was ever going to be a Samurai Jack movie, which was kind of the whole like thing that had been, it was not even a rumor, like it was known to people that was something he was trying to get off the ground for a really long time, and it was so difficult to to sell a for adults 2D movie like that's a double whammy of like not gonna fucking happen in this day and age. And to think that then all these years later, all the interviews I was seeing with him in how this happened were literally just one day it was a phone call, and the guy he knew that was in charge of programming at, I guess if it was either Cartoon Network or Toonami or Adult Swim or whatever, was just like, yeah, let's do it. And like within a month they had a deal, and it's like, oh my God, well,
This is happening. Like,
it's just like, it's bizarre.
it is bizarro world. Like the fact that we live in a time 14 years later that Samurai Jack actually finished. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean,
Like-
and it's interesting because we are in a time of, I don't want to be too negative here, but we're in a time where a lot of stuff, is getting like reboots and revivals and
I would call it like a resurgence era. Like
Yeah.
it really is, because there's a lot of old properties, whether hit or miss in your eyes or somebody else's eyes, it seems to be a trend right now. So like to see Jack come back and then be as good as it is, as we're going to talk about, like it feels good, man.
Yeah, and I mean, and Jack, and I think probably tied with that for me, because this was another show that was really special to me, was Hey Arnold. So between this little extra season of Jack and then the Hey Arnold movie that they're doing, that Nickelodeon is doing, those two in particular I'm really happy about, because in both of those cases, this was where the creator had a story that they wanted to tell a really long time ago, and then circumstances prevented that from happening, and now all this time later, there is a lot of interest still in making that happen, and the right people are able to give that okay, and put forward the massive amount of money it takes to actually make it happen in the fucking first place.
Well, and just like, and thinking about all of the new people that had never possibly grew up with these, or even like really, they've heard of them, but they never actually saw them, because it was in such an early 2000 era timeline. like how many new people came in and were like, wow, this is actually really cool. Like
Hmm.
I'm going to totally watch this. I think that's cool. It's like you have this is for a lot of old fans, but it doesn't exclude new people either.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I guess with that, kind of good segue. Thanks for setting me up there. Haha.
Wow.
So we're gonna kind of do a little bit. We're gonna do this a little differently because there's so few episodes in this. We're gonna actually go episode by episode of this season.
Mhm.
So to start with, I can't imagine a better opening.
Oh my
The
goodness.
people of San Diego Comic Con last year, I think, yeah, 2016, got to see the very first scene with Jack's big re-reveal in the way that he looks, and his little heroic deed at saving these two little blue alien girls,
Emoji aliens.
and from the new and improved souped up beetle droids. And of course, this was a clip that was going around. I think Adult Swim had put it up on their YouTube channel, so like a billion people had seen this over and over in anticipation. What an intro! Like, my God.
Oh my goodness. Like just well, cuz it's just like it's setting the tone like straight off the bat. I mean, well, let's not even like before we even get into that. Why don't we even just talk about the intro first? Like
Well, we don't get the proper intro until
you're
the
right.
second
No,
episode.
I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that. No, you're totally right. They just cut right into it. Wow, no, that actually again, it sets the tone straight away. Like this is it's still Jack, but it's a much different, older, mature, but also kind of well, as we learn eventually, like a little bit broken Jack.
Yeah.
Like this Jack has seems to do whatever it takes in terms of combat because as we saw in episode 1, he has no sword.
Right away, I really liked the direction they went with how tortured that he was.
Yes.
The idea to and it reminds me a little bit of how Toy Story 3 worked, where it was like in real time, like that many years had passed since the previous movie, and not that it had been 50 years, but certainly 12 years for a show to come back in this way, can feel like that long of an amount of time. God damn it, I'm burpy. Why does this happen every time I'm doing a Kirblog, Morty? Sorry. I think that it was a good choice to go with this, kind of. I guess I don't even want to say it because the setting itself is still like the world of Samurai Jack, but in terms of I guess the emotional setting of having, again, this torturous sort of shit that he's going through, and the kind of slow, even from this first episode, the slow sort of introduction of what appears to be him having developed something akin to a dissociative personality disorder, and constantly seeing what you think maybe is hallucinations of
Yeah.
a Grim Reaper type samurai figure in the distance.
Well, I love that. I love how they just don't explain it for a long time. It's
Yeah.
like just have this figure mess with your expectations. Who is this? Why is he so menacing? Like, what's the deal with that? And then like, well, again, this is my appreciation for like I'm sure Genndy and his team did a ton of research, even more so. I mean, even with the original Samurai Jack, of course they did. It's like it's all based in Japanese folklore. Well, in terms of the initial concept, and they branch into tons of
Yeah.
tons of different types of lore. I mean, gosh, we've got characters like the Scotsman. We'll get to him. But yeah, no, I like the tone shift because not every Samurai Jack episode, but like in the previous seasons, like we do get it here, of course, afterward, like after all this action happens for the first opening episode. But the previous episodes, usually it starts off with the slow, like through the environments, like you're getting the atmospheric like tension or lack of tension in this case, and watching Jack just kind of go because there's not a lot of dialogue with Jack usually. So a lot of these episodes in the past like opened up fairly like if it's focused on Jack, usually it opens up very somber or not even somber, just like quiet. So then to go into this, not only is Jack more rugged, and then we get more glimpses into he's had a very rough time since we last saw him. I like that it shows that the show grew with the audience.
Yeah, which for the next episode, I want to talk about the maturity shift as well. But before that, you mentioned about how and as this has been firmly reminded when I went through the episodes again, of sometimes I can imagine the script of recording for an episode, could be less than 10 pages depending on how,
exactly.
silent it might be. And sure, sometimes you might have like a fair amount of like sound effects or like grunts or whatever, depending on whatever bounty hunter Jack's fucking up at the time. But of course, in this first episode, we got an amazing introduction of a new character that I was surprised lasted as long as he did.
Oh my
but
God.
The amazing Scaramouche, voiced equally amazingly by the legendary Tom Kenny. I love that you're doing this whole review thing, babe. It's wonderful.
The second that voice came out of his mouth, I lost my shit. Yep, this is the show I remember.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's so brilliant because it starts off, things are pretty serious for the most part, and then you just get to that moment after you've had all of this like emotional torture with Jack, and then you get this guy, and you're like, yep,
yeah.
this is the show I remember. Thank you.
Well, and what's so comforting too, and of course, shout outs completely and props to, Phil Lamar and Great Delisle, Tara Strong, all the and also Greg Baldwin. I want to give him accolades later, but before him though, it's all 10 of these episodes. It's just like, oh, here's all of the top A-list American cartoon voice actors, just like when the show was going on originally. It's all of these guys, back in the show again. And in their peak form, doing their shit, and it is comforting where it's like, oh yeah, if this was made back in the day, I think I even liken this. This is a weird example to give, but when I was doing not this past Anime April, but last year's Anime April, and I did the Inuyasha one, I was watching Inuyasha the final act. And it felt like it just picked up right where the series left off, years before that. And there was a much lesser time gap for Inuyasha, so it was a little bit less like, whoa, or whatever. But in this case, it really did feel like we just picked up right where we left off. Like, this could have been done back in, 2005 or whenever season 4 capped off. Having, this kind of voice cast, and I'm assuming Colette Sunderman directed it as well, if memory serves. It helped it fit even more so, right alongside the visuals as well. But yeah, Scaramouche, great character. Was surprised and happy that he ended up sticking around.
I couldn't believe that. There's so many things. Like I said, when we get to those talking points, there's things with that character I didn't even imagine would ever happen with that character. And it's just like, he was threatening, funny, charming,
great design.
Great, incredibly good. Well, that's the thing. Samurai Jack has always had incredibly strong design. That's why I love this show so much, because it's so grounded in exaggerating actual anatomy that it's a style I've missed from a lot of shows. That's this current style trend. That's totally fine. I miss angles a little bit.
Yeah, no, me too. I was saying this after I did the. I don't know what I'm going to draw for this one just yet, but I drew Jack and Aku for the preview image of the top 10 thing that they did, and I was firmly reminded on my own accord and also by my friends of I should draw like Genndy more, because simple is best. That those angular, simple, iconic designs are just so good. Sometimes that's all you fucking need,
It's good. No, Jack in general has, he has such a strong design, both from, no matter what angle, he has a great silhouette.
Yeah.
You know who that character is,
yeah, 100%.
Right off the bat.
And actually, so let's talk about Aku now. Little side note, and I do believe I made this comment. No, you know what? No, I tweeted about this later. So, Jourdan, I can't believe in all our time spent animating him when we were doing those last couple episodes of Tome, that I somehow didn't remember that the shape of Kadget in Tome is very heavily inspired by Aku.
I swear to God, we possibly talked about this in a private conversation, or it might have just come up one time, but no one thought of it.
Well, because I did remember, speaking of Inuyasha again, that he was kind of inspired by Goshinki and then like Gospel from Mega Man Battle Network a little bit. He was kind of like a cross between those two. But like after seeing, after drawing Aku in that picture, it took me until I was drawing him that I'm like, oh, the claws and the little like points on the arms and the shoulders. It's like, oh, it's fucking Aku. And like the kind of like the shadow body that just kind of like seeps into the ground, like also how Game Craze has. And I was like, oh, of course. It's like Aku is one of my favorite character designs of all time, like flat out.
Aku. Oh my god, Aku. Aku is just to reiterate what you just said. Aku has one of the strongest animated character designs I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing like his silhouette, like at all. Like, or just not even just his silhouette, but just his facial features, where his inspiration came from. Obviously, Japanese like folklore. Like he is such a incredibly strong design and also his personality fits his design to a T.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just one of the, I would definitely put him in like top 5 villains also in terms of just both his design, personality, motivations.
You can't get much worse than just pure evil incarnate.
Well, pure evil with a hilarious hilarious comedic timing. Like he's imposing because he's so off-putting.
Yeah. Of which, speaking of, so the intro of episode 2 was our actual intro, but the beginning of the episode was I guess because we have and you know what, I think the reason why I for a second agree with you, and I thought like, oh yeah, did we have the intro in the first episode? No, we had the commercial with Phil Lamar's narration,
right.
But we get that really somber. All these really beautiful shots as Jack is narrating over, giving the kind of basic info what's happening with the story now, and then we open on fucking Aku waking up in a very depressed state one morning.
Before like now that we were actually talking about the intro, the one thing I just want to, I love the fact. And I know it's probably for the fans in this case, but I love the fact that just he says it right in the beginning. Gotta get back to the past. And that made me super happy. Little tiniest bit sad we don't get the original theme song, but I totally understand why we don't, because
it's in the ending. So
no, yeah, it's just like it just wouldn't fit in terms of the new theme. I totally understand, but So episode 2, just going from all Jack for the most part, and then going straight to, all right, here's Aku. This is what's going on with Aku.
Yep.
Good lord.
Tell me, doctor, I am super fucked up. What am I doing with my life?
Well, yeah, he's his own therapist. I love that both of them are going through like personal crises.
It's just like I was curious to see how. Like, because I remember Genndy was talking about in some interviews about how he was going to be a little different, compared to how he was in the original series. Not just because of course, the great Mako Iwamatsu passing away, but and also now to say this, massive props. I figured it was going to be Greg Baldwin who did.
I think everyone kind of guessed that at this point.
It was going to be either him. It was going to be either him or Fred Tatasciore. Both of them had already voice matched Aku in video games previously. Greg Baldwin did a great job matching Iroh and the rest of Avatar and in Korra. He did a great job here. It is a super tough act to follow. Like Aku was one of Mako's greatest roles of all time.
Well, Mako just in general is just like that is an immense voice to have to follow up on.
And the character itself being as
that too,
all the time.
Everything. No, that's a tough voice. I do not envy anyone that has to follow that up, but I think he stepped up admirably.
But even inevitable recasting aside, I was curious to see how different he was going to be, and I think that. Him being in this very I don't even care anymore kind of like it made for some really funny bits like scattered throughout this whole season. But this intro with him and just like, I don't even have the energy to kill all of your kind like I normally would back then because I'm just so like, it's like, yeah, no, this is about right. they're both fucked up in their own way, both him and Jack.
Well, because it's nice to actually see like a villain, in this case obviously Aku, like acknowledge that like they're stuck in a loop basically. It's just like he's gonna run away if Jack pulls out the sword, and Jack knows that. Well, and then of course Jack is hiding, not truly hiding because Aku hasn't showed up in years because he kind of gave up after a while, but like Jack doesn't have his sword, but he's very lucky because Aku is currently doing his thing over here, where he just doesn't care because he thinks like, oh, what's the point? Jack has the sword. We're going to just do the same thing we've been doing for 50 years. Whatever.
Well, for the most part, while I was, and I was alluding to this earlier, where, they feel consistent in terms of, I believe that these are the same characters and this is what this is the point that they've reached in 50 years as this has gone by. And of course, the first episode technically takes place over a longer period of time as we see a time lapse with an elsewhere story happening, and that first moment of that meanwhile thing happening in the previous episode, not to tread back too far, but that was when I realized, this is a little more adult, because even with that intro from the first episode and then the opening with Aku in the second episode, the shot of the silhouette of the pregnant woman screaming in pain, I was
boy.
oh yeah, this is on Adult Swim, I forgot. Right.
That was some crazy imagery. I was just like, wow, we're going here? All right.
Yep.
All right, let's see where this goes.
Yep. Yeah.
Also being able to put out 7 children, like that poor woman.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say poor woman, she's pretty horrible. But
yeah. Well, she chose. She knew what she was doing the whole time.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
it even was all the same, it looked like there were many. It might have been the seven daughters of Aku might have been like dispersed over several, and maybe just that one who was being a bitch was Ashi's mom, but who knows?
The mom's hardcore already because she just gets up after she does that. It's like, yep, I just put out 7 kids. What are you gonna do about it? All right, here, praise me.
Yeah. So I guess with what was unexpectedly longer lasting, well, in the case of just Ashi and the creepy mom, new characters as well. I really wasn't expecting that to happen, because as we got through the second and third episode, we have Jack coming to grips with, oh God, I just took a human's life. Oh Jesus, I'm a monster. Oh no, oh God. Which of course was a point I brought up in the top 10 about how, they were smart and careful to always have it usually be mechanical opponents of Jack, or at least like cybernetically enhanced, so that if they get a limb chopped off, it's not, oh no, what are we gonna do with this kind of thing.
You know what? I just thought of I thought about this point before, but like since you brought this up in terms of them appearing in episode, what did you say, 2 or 3, right? I'm trying to. Yeah. We watched a lot of episodes this week.
Yeah.
But it was the 3rd episode, right? Or was it 2?
The third one. Well, the second one of them dies.
Right. Okay, but no, they show up in episode 2. Yes. But it's really interesting that they chose not to. I think there's a good choice in this case, because like they could have done the thing where they just have everything happen in the first episode. Like, we're gonna recap you really quickly on Jack and Aku, and then we're gonna introduce new characters. But they waited, and I think that really paid off. To be like, give Jack and Aku their moment to shine again by reintroducing him. Then we're gonna throw in a curveball.
Yeah, well, especially because, of course we had the other flashbacks I forgot about, and props to the fact they got both the young and old version of the voices of the Emperor, Sab Shimono and Keone Young, to come back for him, and Lauren Tom as Jack's mother as well, for some really horrifying actual hallucinations, as opposed to the Grim Reaper samurai character, which was not a hallucination.
The river scene. Oh, that was like the first. Like you already knew Jack was like kind of messed up, and then you get that, and the guilt, the crushing guilt, is just eating at him to the point where he's hallucinating.
Well, see, and it's funny because that scene with the river, I still feel like, okay, I could have bought that if they had done that on the regular hours of Cartoon Network, they could have gotten away with that.
I just see that being in the original. I honestly could still see that scene being like the most they would have possibly tried to push it originally. Yeah,
for sure. But once, like, we had the pregnant mother screaming, of course the blood finally showing up when he killed one of the 7 daughters. And then oh crap, what was the other? Oh, I just had something else I lost. And of course Jack's alter insinuating that he should kill himself. That those things that kind of all in tandem was I was like, oh, okay.
Well, and that was also really interesting. Like, again, not to jump too far ahead, but like, just that particular, I don't know what to call it, like Jack's subconscious or like that version of himself he's seeing in his own head.
I would say that it seemed like from my own research that is a dissociative personality, which would be considered an alter.
But like, I like how they made that Jack his own character as well.
Yeah.
While making sense why he's there. It's like, so well, it's good because it also gives more chance for Jack to have more dialogue as well.
Yeah.
So
And even actually, later on too with that, where after the suicidal, self-depreciating version is gone, but his condition is not gone, and he still has moments of kind of having conversations with himself, but they're more at peace, which I think was actually one of the better executions I'd seen of something like that in animation. So that was very well handled for sure.
well, yeah, because it's so easy to mess that up and have it be cheap. Just for the sake of like, oh, this character's troubled, and no, it's just like I think they handled this in a really the realest way possible while still trying to keep the balance of like here's tension and a bit more, it's a little darker, but then there's still a comedic light side to Jack.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah.
But I think let's talk about the next episode.
Sure. Well, with the Daughters of Aku, of course, we had this kind of short series of really spectacular fight scenes between them chasing Jack through a horde of different locales. Reminded me of kind of the greatest hits of all the really good fight scenes from the original series, with the kind of very like sort of artsy backgrounds and like the usage of black against white.
I know exactly which episode you're talking about.
Yeah, the ninja one, of course.
Yeah, the tower. I mean, everyone that knows Samurai Jack, if they had to pick one episode, usually it's that one because it is one of the most striking uses of artistry in a show. It is beautiful.
Yeah, Jack versus the Ninja was not in my top 10, but definitely in terms of visuals, I think it's the most outstanding.
Well, yeah, it does stand out the most in regard to just like it is so striking because of the way they incorporated light and shadow. It was like it was a perfect way to have that kind of like character that was hunting Jack, and then Jack countered that by using the exact opposite.
Yeah,
like because there's always they in the show overall they always use the motif of light and dark in very interesting ways in comparison because there's so many. I mean, light and dark is such a simple concept, and it's been obviously used for centuries for storytelling, like good, evil, light, dark, good, bad. But like it means so much more because of the visual style of Samurai Jack. Like they play with those concepts, like they do the best of show don't tell. It's perfect.
Yeah, and so kind of moving through this with the Daughters of Aku battles and them slowly being eliminated and.
Before you go on with that thought,
sure.
I just thought of something. Another example of that again with the use of shadow, where you have the daughters like you don't know right away, but it's just like they actually you think like, oh, Jack's gonna ambush them. No. They end up ambushing Jack instead by slinking into the shadows. And I'm like, that is so cool because you normally think like, oh, you don't see Jack at first when he runs into like the ruins, and then they're looking around. You're just like, oh, Jack's gonna probably pick them off one at a time. No, not in that way. It was complete opposite. They're born hunters.
Yeah, like
this is what they've been training to do all their lives, and then. Like to have that moment of where it just turns around like that and then just all hell breaks loose.
And even then, by the end of episode 3, I thought they were done. I literally thought that was the end of it. And it's funny because I think I was glad to be surprised because even though like Ashi, even in those first couple episodes, got more attention than the other ones. I thought she was done at the end of that episode when they both fall off the branch. I was like, she's dead. They're done. And then Jack's going to move on to the next part of the story or whatever.
Well, that was really interesting because, like, again, it's Ashi, of course, ends up surviving because obviously Jack falls off the thing, and then Jack's got to survive if he falls off the thing because he's the main character. But then it's just like I always wonder. I mean, you're gonna assume she's dead, but whatever happened to that one where he just tossed her ass right off the ledge? He just grabbed her and just yeep.
Yeah, and I, as we move into episode 4 with the chained up Banjo Kazooie Jacko Kaashi episodes. It was surprising. It was as keeping me on my toes as like any other show I've been following, and it was cool in that way of like seeing her develop into this important character as they went forward was like, oh, this is cool. Okay, I'm down with this and seeing kind of how this goes. So.
Well, I really love the fact that, like, I mean, of course, this is also the first chance where you get to see Jack's other part of his personality again, where it's just like he's like, you're a very troubled individual.
Yeah.
You need help, and if you think Aku is the good guy here. And then I love the fact that like it takes so much effort for Jack to actually break through even a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Like she didn't just turn around. No, she's been like this her whole life. I mean, of course, something that'll come up later. I mean, I probably shouldn't bring that point up yet. We'll get to that. But,
okay. Well, something I really liked about this one in particular was showing kind of the results of what when Jack isn't able to do something, and then when he is able to do something for like, because really the distractions that he chooses to take throughout the journey of the original series before we got this season is that he would always stop to help everybody, in his path, regardless of whether or not he would get something out of it ultimately to like a time portal or something or whatever. And the fact that even with this character, when like, okay, well, I have the ability to show this person like another way, if I so choose to, and he chose to, and it worked. And by her own volition, seeing like, oh, my quote unquote dad is, it's like, well, maybe my life is my life path that mommy set out for me is not so good, actually.
Well, it's actually another point to bring up really fast. Going back to since you were talking about Jack, like usually he's always saving innocence. I like the fact that Ashi was the thing that brought him back to that because as we saw in episode 1, I believe it was episode 1, he for a bit completely ignored that village that just was being attacked by Scaramouche at first.
Yeah.
So all those people ended up dying because he probably thought like, what's the point? Like if I happen to come across something, yeah, I'm going to help, but like now he doesn't go as much out of his way, which is really sad.
Yeah.
But bringing Ashi, well, and then also Ashi gives him someone to talk to. Because it's like he's going crazy because he's so alone in his own horribly guilty thoughts about what's going down, why he can't defeat Aku. And then, of course, like leaving his family behind. Whether he had a choice or not, like that's irrelevant to him. It's like, he couldn't, he can't, feels like he can't do anything. And also the fact that he has no sword. So he feels double useless.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of beautiful in that it's like this person who was born of his greatest enemy that wanted to kill him, and her being around him constantly and him then like finally snapping out of his shit and being like, oh, okay, this is an opportunity for me to not only make this person right, but for me to make myself right again. And this person of all people, it worked really well. Like, when you think about it and you break it down like that, like, and even like seeing her slowly kind of change in like the way that she was drawn, and like not just before she gets like the new outfit and stuff a little bit later.
Oh my god, that revelation also of like her skin.
Yeah, which I was like, oh, that was not what I was expecting to be the case.
And also you get these horrible flashbacks. Like you already know her mother is a terrible person, but like you just don't know the depths of how bad this bitch is, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Until you see like little glimpses of like, just pushing, no problem, just push your daughters into like a pile of coals.
Yeah.
No biggie. Yeah, this just burn it into your flesh, kid. It's a flesh wound. You'll
Yeah.
heal.
It's fine. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, this isn't a
Um,
child. This isn't child abuse at all.
and then I guess moving into the halfway point now with episode 5. First of all, need to say the opening bit with the Scotsman, probably one of the
Yes.
biggest highlights of the entire show.
The best way to reintroduce that character, and I don't know about other people, but like it could have gone either way, but I love the fact that they brought back the Celtic magic to be like, yeah, we're gonna bring back because we really like that old design.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're just gonna him being pushed in a wheelchair though, that was pretty
It
funny.
was so good. I mean, I caught a glimpse of him in one of the trailers, so I was like, okay, yeah, he's back, of course. And,
Yeah, no, that
you know,
got shared around because people were just like, "Is this real? Is this real? Is it fake? Is it real?" And it's just like trust nothing. But at the
yeah,
same
yeah,
time,
yeah.
I'm glad that turned out to be real. And then,
And the 40 daughters, all voiced by Great Lyle.
oh my god, the thing that sold me is like, cover yourself. You look like you're going dancing.
And I remember, oh, you know what? Okay, that one. So I watched a lot of these with different friends at different points. I watched the first few with Kadget, our tone musician, and I watched this one with Mike Lucas and Steve Yurko. Mike was like upset when Aku killed him.
Oh, I was super upset because, well, again, Aku has, it was hilarious and sad at the same time because Aku has amazing, like, comedic timing when he does horrible things. In this case, it was just like, bam, you're dead. After, well, you knew something bad was going to happen to the Scotsman because he's going off on Aku.
Yeah.
Like, and Aku's just like, I don't have time to be listening to this little mortal Scottish man, like, bad. Well, and also the fact that he brought up Jack, so that already pushed, like, you pushed my buttons. Just die.
And like at the time, I thought, well, you know what? I'm sad, but that was the best possible way for him to go out. Oh, and he's back! Yay! Okay, cool. I'm cool with this. Whatever. It's fine.
He's like, you're just a big baby. Just dead.
So good.
I love the way it does. Yeah, the dust comes off and just skeleton remains, and then there's the bagpipe music, and then there's like, Dad, no. Oh my god.
Speaking of the Scotsman too, what was episode 5 was probably the most clever use of something akin to a clip show that this new season could have had with reintroducing a lot of these old characters again.
Yes.
And you know, showing them like what they've been up to after all this time, and like all these kind of greatest hits with like the Woolies and the Samurai and all these guys.
Oh no, this episode, not only was it fan service, but like it was important, and it wasn't just fan service. It was important to, like, as a plot point, to like Ashi gets a moment to, like, see. Well, hold on, was this the episode? Because had Jack already gone off by or episode 5, or was that?
Yeah, I think that he had been
We might have skipped it. We might have skipped
separated.
part of that episode because there was the whole thing with the children. Remember?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about 6. I have Wikipedia in front of me, and I'm going slowly insane. Sorry. Yes, prior to this, I guess Jack and Ashi
Backpedal.
beginning to have, just like on everybody on Twitter. Hey, we have the beginning of Jack and Ashi's, like, random fun time adventures and crazy shit happening in every other area they
Of
go
course
to.
we get Jack, of course, dressing in hilarious outfits again because
Yeah.
that always needs to come back. And then you get these hilarious expressions from both of them now. So you get to, like, you're starting to get to see more of Ashi's personality, like when she's not smothered. And then, like, yeah, and then even Jack, like, he's clearly being somewhat serious still, but he's dressed in this ridiculous outfit. Trying to be espionage man, or like show her, like, oh yeah, look at all this bad stuff, like people coming to our planet. Like there's a, well, I like the reason I like that scene also really quick is because it's showing like Earth's population of just like natural beings and creatures has just been infested by like so many outside sources, and
Yeah.
because just lets it happen, like, bandits, thieves, like mercenaries from outer space, and they have no regard for obviously innocent life. And that also goes for like the fauna of that planet as well. Like Earth is just like it has normal animals still, but then it has like horrifying creatures as well that
Yeah.
also coexist. So, um, oh wait, no, okay, we skipped over something else
Yeah.
that is super important: the wolf.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. Whatever. What did he just go? Did he just leave? What happened to him?
Okay, I will say, like, again, I know we're gonna get eventually to. Oh my God, there's so my brain is bouncing all over the
I know.
place because
There's
there's
so
so much
much.
stuff.
There's so
But
fucking much.
like, I am very very sad. It's okay because I think it was mostly just a symbolism thing, even though the wolf was real. I am very sad the wolf did not show up again in the final episode
Yeah.
because they were giving us everything. They were giving us everything, and I didn't get the wolf, and I was so sad. But I'm like, it's okay.
Wolf was great. I liked Wolf in his little bit of time there in the beginning. Yeah.
No, the episode of Wolf and Jack, like that was just perfect. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like, but yeah, before like going on Ashi adventures, like the fact that Jack had that whole sequence of him being hunted down, of course, but even before that, like the whole sequence of him and like Genndy and his team showing off, like, hey, we got blood for days. You
Yep.
ready for some blood?
Yep.
Here's some blood. Here's a knife in your abdomen. Here's Jack walking with a knife still in his abdomen.
Here's Jack stitching himself up with a fucking like leaf or whatever.
Jack is hardcore. Like we already knew he was hardcore. Like that was the improvisation of like just he looks over. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just
Yep.
you know what this is a thing that has to happen. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep bleeding.
Yep.
But then okay, well then also before that with the wolf with the parallels, I love the back and forth
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with the wolf and well then like I was talking with the fauna, like you see like these tigers. Oh yeah, by the way, they're not normal tigers. They're horrific creatures of God knows where.
Like eight
And
different animal screams like mixed over each other and sounds. Fucking.
and of course, as a lover of many animals, seeing that wolf get beat up made me very sad.
Yeah.
Of course, that those iconic last shots of like the brawl after that happened, and of course Jack falling into the river with you don't know. It's like well yes he's going to survive because he's the main character, but it's just like oh man
Yeah.
he's really seriously hurt. But yeah, so then you have the wolf character. That wolf was so good.
Yeah.
Just everything about there's nothing else to really say. Just
Now,
like,
now I
just
feel
wanted-
like a dick for forgetting him. And now I'm also like, why didn't he show up at the finale for a second, just to, like bite one of the guards or something? I don't know.
I think what, like even though I would want that, it probably is for the best that it didn't happen because it
Yeah.
kind of just makes that episode really special.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, like I said, just because I want it doesn't mean it should have happened.
So yeah, I guess moving back ahead again. Yeah. So
Kid.
so
Let's talk
yeah.
about
So,
the kid episode.
so like that first of a few different little like mini adventures that Jack and Ashi have together, and kind of this thing that pushes him over the edge. I want to say I actually, not to give myself too much of a pat on the back here, but I did predict from episode 1 that was meant to be like sort of a Grim Reaper type character that was like constantly reminding him of like all of his mistakes, and then like there to fucking chastise him for any new mistake he even think he might have made, even though he didn't, because the kids turned out to be okay in the end, as it happened to be.
Well, and like even before that moment, though, I have to say Ashi, of course, also Ashi had a very incredible moment, especially with that guy. Well, because they had that parallel happening where you had that really sick dude in the metal armor that looked like a robot,
Yeah.
that was torturing her,
Yeah.
and she like those are also probably some of my favorite facial expressions that she made in the entire show because it is painful.
Yeah.
Like she is angry. She is so incredibly pissed off about what this dude is saying because it's hitting like a ton of bricks. Like, yeah, this is what my mother did to me.
Yep.
And I'm about to you're dead, dude. You're dead. I'm literally going to pull myself out of this contraption and kick your ass.
Yep.
And she did. No, with like she didn't need to have anybody help her. It would have been fine if Jack was also. I love the fact that they were both incapacitated, and then Ashi just went full like ape shit. And then she had that really cool moment, and then but unfortunately, then back to Jack, by blowing up the machine. Jack thinks, "Oh my God, all of these kids are dead."
Yeah.
And then that one shot with his face close up, I'm just like, "Oh, this hurts. Oh, this hurts so bad." Like he's about to just break. And then he walks off with the dude. And you're like, "Oh my God, he gonna go? Is he gonna go do what I think he's gonna do?" And then we cut. Then the next episode, of course, is like you don't see Jack for most of the episode. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
happened to him?
But yeah, having the kind of greatest hits of all these different characters that we had seen come back for a little bit, and Ashi getting to meet them and seeing like what he's done for people,
Yes.
it helped inform even better than by the end of 6, where she comes in to to prevent him from nearly killing himself, with this like kind of very dark, creepy take on a seppuku sort of thing. Was it by that point? It's like they had spent enough time developing her in those few episodes that like I bought it when she was the one to pull him out of it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was
Well,
very
yeah,
happy that that turned out that
the
way.
the pacing. I have to talk about this because the pacing of these episodes are perfect.
Yeah,
Like I was never bored. Like I was never bored in the original series, but like they fine tuned it for this. It's like the thing about Samurai Jack that's so important is Genndy and his team, they don't waste your time.
yeah,
Every shot is important whether something is happening or not. Because I don't even think backgrounds are barely ever reused in this show. Like at all.
yeah.
Like they don't reuse backgrounds. Every shot is painstakingly made, whether, originally traditionally, and then of course they were able to replicate like through more digital means in this case. Either way, same result. But obviously a little more polished in this case, just as beautiful. But yeah, the show's pacing doesn't waste time because they're always building atmospheric tension or like just some kind of atmosphere. Like there's always a mood in every single scene.
Well, and they pack a lot into these episodes. It actually, in a way, this is a weird comparison to make, but when we were doing Tome Season 2, and I decided to just do the last half of what I had planned as 6 episodes, when I was intending to do like another 10 or whatever it was going to be, it was reminding me of that same thing. Where it's like, okay, we got 10 episodes to do, and even I said before, actually the final act did that. You have 26 episodes to wrap this up. Go, like as you were saying, every shot mattered, which is what I love about both Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken as well with a lot of their stuff, is that they make use of just absolutely everything as much as possible. And yeah, and then by that ending sequence, then him getting his no, he doesn't get his original look back until the next episode, but him.
Well, yeah, don't skip too far ahead.
Yeah. Was there anything else left to say about 6, or do you want to move to 7?
Well, yeah, just like but yeah, so like talking about like okay, so the mood was set, but like with Ashi, like I love the fact that they focused that because it could have been a thing of just like Jack continues to just tell her about everything once she goes to find him, but they didn't do that.
Yeah.
No. Ashi gets to have her moment of where not only is she having more self-discovery in like taking off like the black crap off of her skin and like freeing up herself a little bit, like she's getting more in tune with you could say the cheesy thing of like in tune with nature, but it's kind of true.
Yeah. Well, the outfit certainly says that, so yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. She's got like this Tinkerbell-esque like nature outfit, and it's she's super cutie.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the thing though. It's just like she just brightens up like so much after that, and then well at the same time then you have that contrast. You're just like you're hoping like, oh God, is it gonna be that thing where is she gonna just lose all of her kind of badass traits? No, not in the slightest.
Nope.
Because coming up after that, it's like, well, okay, yeah. Then leading up to that, she finally finds Jack, and then you have just this oppressing atmosphere, and these again really striking camera angles, and like just the first shot of Jack, like right in scene where he's framed by all of these old spirits, and like they come out, and then they're like condemning him, being like, you have to do this, you dishonored us, and then she has a really important speech while also trying to fight this guy.
Yeah.
Like trying to talk Jack like, you changed my life, you are so important, please don't do this. And then Jack finally snaps out of it because he also realizes, like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this, and also the fact that the kids are not dead.
Yeah, yeah, that was like the fucking Vegito moment of when Goku's like, they killed everybody, even Bulma, and Vegeta's like, okay, fucking fine, I'm refusing now. Here we go.
Whoops.
Okay.
No, that's actually one of my. That's I don't know what if that's called a trope or not for something, but I like it when you have like you list off certain bad things are happening, and then you list off that one specific bad thing, and then the character gives a crap.
Yeah, actually, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had a great one of those. That is probably my favorite moment in that movie. If you guys haven't seen that yet, anybody listening.
But then so then you also have like that very final moment as the last thing. It's just like you get after all of that incredibly oppressive stuff that was happening. It's like, oh god, this is so serious. Oh my god, the tension is so high. And then Jack just comes back with the I like your hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. That was nice also because I'm just like, oh, he's like really himself again. He's back to being like, well, I want to say happy Jack, but I think standard Jack and not
well, no,
like.
He's in a more like at least slightly more comfortable set of mind for the moment.
Yeah.
Because it's just like obviously as so an example. I'll actually bring this example up when we get to it, but like just coming back to the point. But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, well, I kind of that having that new mindset then led very well into the next one, 7, where he goes on this kind of astral spirit journey to kind of suppresses the darkness that has overtaken his heart by that point, and also get his sword back again, which was cool to see. The god characters again, which because I love that. My favorite episode is the collective 2-parter, the origin of evil, where we see how the magic sword gets to becomes what it is from Jack's dad, and seeing the god characters again, give him the reboot as it turns.
Well, like again, even like, let's take a step back from that. Like that episode had so much stuff in it.
Yeah.
I'm not, like there is so many things that go down in an episode. It has so many contrasting moods in that episode. It is insane. So like, well, and also the revelation that like again they go on the more spiritual side of things of like Jack being broken, where it's like I didn't lose the sword left me.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. Like that just like his sword literally is like this holy artifact of like it's bestowed upon you if you are worthy by like these ultimate god characters that were originally fighting evil. But it's just like the sword is, I'm not a will of its own, but it's just like it's like, oh, I'm not worthy of having the sword, so the sword won't show itself to me because I've lost myself.
Yeah.
And I love that they go back to the place where he lost it. It ain't there. So side note, very cute giant bird.
Always a fan of those.
But yeah, so you have like, so it starts off like that. And so Jack's like, okay, I kind of think I realize what I need to do, but I need some time. And Ashi's just like, oh, where are you going? Oh, I'll just wait over here. You do you. Like,
regarding Ashi in this episode too, so Ashi, I personally I liked her as a character. I also can say objectively, I think that she had some Mary Sue-ish things going for her at certain points. Like a couple things we'll probably get to a little bit later, but I think that for the most part, whenever she was holding her own and fighting back, I didn't find it to be like too obnoxious in terms of like, and now here's a new character that's just like randomly introduced and they're super powerful and blah 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 and they can just do all this bad shit or whatever, because the way that they built her from the very beginning of the first episode of the season, like I bought it, so it worked fine. And then also having the High Priestess mother character come back, which was kind of a cool surprise. And the two of them fighting actually led to that was kind of, I think, a nice like sort of full circle to like what she had already been going through for all of her life up until that point.
Well, that was her final major obstacle in terms of like, I'm literally confronting the source of all of my anguish.
Yeah, of all the
Um,
world's anguish.
but well, with Ashi, I have to say like, I love that battle, by the way.
Yeah.
But like the way I've always viewed Ashi, and that also goes for the other sisters, though. Of course, like they probably would have survived if they had been obviously more in terms of a coordination of teamwork, but they weren't really taught that in that way because yeah, they're working together, but they're not really like they weren't really covering each other, as if like their lives depended on protecting each other. Um, but like you get Ashi, like who clearly she survived out of them, and like all of them were incredibly skilled and could go toe to toe with Jack. The only That's why I buy her being able to basically kick this army's ass, not only because she actually has someone to care about now, but also the only reason that she like on her own she could probably go toe to toe with Jack. It's just Jack has so much experience on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's really they're both very close in regard to skill, but just Jack has more time on his side in regard to honing even more. But also Jack does have a slightly unfair, not I wouldn't say unfair advantage, but he was trained in like a ton of different
Like
fighting.
everything in existence.
Yeah, because if you're gonna fight the ultimate evil, see that's the thing. I love Jack's character because all of his training in terms of him having, because normally, wait, again, speaking of like, if you want to talk about just like falling into Mary Sue, the reason Jack doesn't, for like being like an uninteresting character that can do a bunch of things, is because you're fighting. You have set Aku up to be the ultimate evil. What's the best way to fight the ultimate evil? Train every way possible to fight said ultimate evil.
Yeah.
So like that makes perfect sense. So like that's why Jack is one of those characters, like even though he beats stuff up, especially in the original series, like it's always entertaining to watch him do that because like it's not just like him destroying a bunch of stuff and like winning the day and that's just the plot. It's the side characters that he interacts with that make it so important. That's what's important rather than just him being able to, yeah, we know he's going to be able to beat stuff up with a sword.
Yeah, well, that goes back to my point why I buy it with Ashi, because she was the kind of inverse where she was trained to kill the ultimate force of good
Exactly.
in the world. Well, probably not according to them, because to them Aku is the good one and Jack is the evil one. But
They don't need to know that.
yeah, Seven had a really nice conclusion of like a good full circle with Ashi, and then Jack getting the sword and his classic look back, which was cool to see that as well.
Well, we have to talk about what I consider also one of the most important scenes in that episode, then we'll move on. But
Oh, sure.
the tea ceremony.
That was interesting.
Well, I looked it up afterwards, and like it is so painfully accurate in how much love was put into that scene. There's like maybe one or two details that are ever so slightly off, but it is a beautiful representation of what that is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And also it's incredibly good, like for people who like are into sound design and whatnot. That is like the perfect example of like good sound design, because all of the silence, but with all of the objects and whatnot, everything that they recorded for that, it sounded so authentic.
Yeah, it was very subtle, very very well artfully done, that whole sequence for sure.
Well, and also, it's a great contrast back and forth where Jack's going through like trying to calm his mind and like this is his way of trying to find it. I mean, you could take so many interpretations, I'm sure, out of that scene, but like he's trying to work through. And of course, just like he's not balanced, so his tea tastes terrible. And then we get that amazing scene where it's like it comes full circle with this second personality of his, like going absolutely nuts because the sword's within their reach, and Jack can't seem to get it. And so he's just like the visual imagery for that second character in Jack's like this persona of his, of just like his instability at this moment, like. I love how it changes from like when we first see him when he's very getting to that point, possibly wanting to kill himself. Then you get the moment where with like the wolf and he's like bleeding out, and then like it's incredibly viciously stylized.
Yeah.
And so like that's really like that was very off-putting, in a good way. And then you get the most normal looking version when Jack is having like actual conversation with another human being. So it's probably he's in a better, like, not a good state of mind, but like, hey, this thing isn't like drastically warped like other episodes, and then you finally get like it comes full circle where it's just like, no, you have been like I've been stuck with you for far too long. Like, be gone. And so then he's finally able to like pull himself together.
Yeah, and then it almost seems like these last three episodes after that are just kind of like all pretty in tandem with each other. I will admit, well, no, I'll save that for when we get to the last episode. Let's go on to number 8. Number 8, the mushy episode.
The most controversial. No,
I mean, well, it was a little bit. I mean,
yes, it was. I mean that in a half joke.
yeah, I mean, well, okay, I guess, the episode itself is mostly just another like fun adventure. But yeah, the big thing about it was the awkward. I mean, objectively, it was awkward romance between Jack and Ashi in terms of like them getting together and them being all like, with each other.
I I think that episode it's interesting because it's just like again, I know many people are very on the fence, or like it's very 50-50. Either people love it, hate it, or kind of unsure. Um, I was kind of in the unsure camp for the moment. Then I kind of like took a step back for a second. Again, not everyone's gonna agree with me on this, but I feel like with the time that was allotted, and I'm not using this as an excuse, of course. I mean, yes, there was 10 episodes, but like, good story writing is good story writing. But I feel like Genndy clearly, like, he went full out in regard to like next 2 episodes or whatever. Like, this was all extremely intentional, to just make it as awkward as possible. And I think it was like partially for the sake of comedy, but also just like have something really lighthearted before we get that final episode. And like it also give Jack a pretty interesting reason to be like, oh God, I gotta make some choices here. And then, then we eventually get to final episode, which we'll get to. So like I'm more okay with that episode. And also I feel like there was, if you want to go in the route of like I like these two together, I feel like there was enough little tidbits dropped beforehand to justify that.
Yeah, I don't love or hate it necessarily. I think it is very like, all right, yeah, this has been done before. I do again still buy it in terms of like, all right, with all the shit that they've been through and just like tensions mounting and just basic attraction. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, that makes sense. I can live with that. And when it was like intentionally painfully awkward, like it was funny because it was treated as a gag. So it's like, okay, that's cool, it's fine. And it wasn't making me like dislike Ashi as a character, because I mean, of course she's under more pressure because Jack is just is infallible and he's super iconic, and you can't not love him if you're invested into this ride. Ashi has the pressures of just like she's a new fixture in this universe and she's being treated as a very important character, which is why I do think that there are some Mary Sue-esque things about her mixed in, but not to an absolutely obnoxious degree. So I think it was fine.
I don't know if I'd necessarily call it Mary Sue. If I would call it more so like there were tropes that were played fairly straight. Straightforward is what I mean.
Yeah.
And at least for me, I was okay with that because putting these two characters into context, and like I said, after a while, it actually kind of grew on me, and also it helped that I saw really cute art. But
Yeah.
like because you have you have two characters. Jack's basically been alone and torturing himself for 50 years now, and you also have Ashi that comes from an equally horrible like scenario of, well, like the worst case scenario of like being born with a purpose of just you need to go kill someone, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna beat that into you. So it's just like you have these two people that desperately need some form of like love in their lives, whether it be whatever way that you wanted it to be, but then this is the way the show decided to go with it, and I think that's okay.
Yeah. I think it was fine. I think we're missing the most important part of this episode, though. the talking penis joke.
Oh God! No. We completely forgot to talk about Scaramouche's bits because like he shows up multiple times to like as a side little thing because he's gonna. Well, I love the fact that eventually, like, well, before we get to that, like he's obviously he comes back, so that was a really great surprise. Be like, oh my God, he's still here. Thank God.
Yay.
Scaramouche is still alive because he was so fucking funny, and
Yep.
I love the guy. But so he's just like, oh man, I gotta go tell Aku that Jack locks his sword, and then he goes on his way, and then he's like, you just get to see his journey to get to Aku the entire time, and then of course the penis joke, which just slayed me. I was just like, oh my God,
You know,
I'm done.
I just gotta say, I think the only reason that worked the way it was is because they had, as far as I can tell, no other like swearing or bad words or whatever in this entire season,
They
despite
did.
despite the Adult Swim decree of like, oh well, now you can do all this more mature stuff or whatever. Not that bad words makes it more mature or whatever inherently, but it's just funny that like that's the one place where it happened, and it's almost like.
Well, you don't expect it. You absolutely do not.
No.
Expect it, even within, it's like, well, because you don't expect it. It's well, and then also, it's because it's what everybody's thinking. You see that character that just walked away. Yes, that character's it's like a penis.
It's like, but it's so like it's executed so on the nose, like that. Because okay, if that joke was done like a few years ago, like within the last 10 years or so, it probably would have come off as like, okay, that was awkward and not funny. But because it is so straightforward and like blanket, like, wow, like, I don't know, or with the way that Tom Kenny states it, it's just like, it comes back around to being funny again.
Well, no, I mean, voice performance definitely also on top of that because of the way it was almost like kind of whispered as well, which made it even funnier. but then also, I think it's just because of the fact that like it's in a show like Samurai Jack, you just don't expect that kind of thing to happen in a Samurai Jack show, just at all, because it's just like, oh my God, now we're just reminded, yes, this is on Adult Swim. Hilarious.
I almost wondered about like, I wonder if like he just improv that and they were like, well, we can use it, but I don't know if that's.
I wouldn't be surprised if they wrote that in. I honest to God would not have been surprised. But yeah, so then you get scared. Well, then also you had that like really cute little what was it, Astro from
Oh yeah, he was just I pointed out
like
it's
that little
like a
cameo. That was cool.
Cockney Astro. Well, that comes from Tartakovsky's like Hanna-Barbera origins. Cartoon.
I just love that though. I was just like, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you get Scaramouche's journey. But yeah, so then going back to the main thing, so we're going to episode 9 now, right?
Yep. Winding down.
Yeah, so then they start right back in, right where they left off.
Yep. Yeah, which was also like relieving because I'm like, okay, they didn't just fuck on the spot, which is kind of what I was expecting to happen.
No.
But...
like Jack and Ashi, like no matter like even though that it's like this is awkward romance, but like they're being very genuine about this because they're honestly like I don't want to say love starved, but it's just like, oh my God, like this we found you have two people, like I said, that actually can trust and care about each other, and like they've both been missing that from their lives. Because Jack's traveled alone. Yeah, he's made tons of friends and whatnot, but he always has to leave. And then Ashi had just her sisters, but there was no love there. So I don't know, just like that's another reason like I can buy that ship.
Yeah.
Because there's reasonable arguments for it. So and it's like, okay, no, I'm cool with that. You know what? This is kind of cute. All right, and if you don't like it, that's totally fine. But so yeah, going into that. It's like they do that, and then they break away, and then you just have all this really silly little dialogue. It's like, oh no, it was. I don't remember the entire dialogue sequence, but I was just like, oh, this is kind of cute.
It's interesting. I remember when I was watching this episode. I think I saw this with Mike and Steve. It was interesting in that like it's one of the slower. Not in a bad way. It's a very slow-paced episode compared to the entire rest of the season, in that it really just kind of takes its time. It takes its time with Jack and Ashi just kind of going around and talking it out with each other. It's almost like this sort of calm before the storm, and it made me a little worried at first because I was like, man, like this is the second to last episode, and they're gonna have a lot to do in the final one because
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I think that was a shared fear in regard to a lot of people because just like there is only so much you can do, and it's just like you do the best you can with the time you're given.
well, because episode 10, I mean, like the final episode of Samurai Jack, I think for literally all 10 plus of these years, for people who had imagined whether this was going to happen or not, or whether it was going to be like the final act of if the movie had happened, which I'd actually be curious to see how different this was from like what the original movie plan was, maybe at some point, but nonetheless, the very, very finale section of Samurai Jack's story as it is, there's X number of things that are going to happen where it's like he's going to fight Aku, he's going to go back to the past, he's going to kill Aku in the past and set everything right, etc. There's going to be some way he's going to find to get back, etc. And, so that all that is going to have to fit in, and by this point, the final episode. But I remember as I was watching this, and I was even kind of keeping track, and like, all right, we've only got, this many minutes left in the episode, what's going to happen? So I do want to mention, too, because I think it was one of my top favorite episodes in the top 10 list that I did, was Jack and the Traveling Animals, where he meets the Guardian character that was guarding that last time portal.
Oh my god, I'm so sad about what happened. And it made sense because Aku did say, I destroyed every time portal.
Yeah.
But I was just like, but that's the thing though. I think that was a great way, as sad as that was a great way to avoid a retcon.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting, because I think that Genndy did say something in some interview about, like, the Guardian will be involved in some way, somehow. I won't say anything more. And I'm like, okay. So by that point, once I had heard, like, yeah, they're all gone, I'm like, all right, at least he's probably dead. There'll probably be some remnant. And I'm like, of course, you see the red sunglasses on the ground cracked. And I'm like, yep, all right.
You need nothing more, And also, well, I mean, you already saw the destroyed portal. So you're just like, okay, there's that. And then... Well, I like that, though, because, like, not only does it avoid a retcon, it's just like, oh, Jack's, like, if you want to interpret it this way, I feel like, because obviously there was a very different image of what Jack might have looked like in the future, 14 years ago or whatever, in terms of when the show was still going. And, of course, now that you have the opportunity to do a fifth season, you can change a lot of stuff. But, like, I like to imagine, like, that whatever vision the time portal had, it wasn't set in stone.
Yeah, I mean, other than just Jack will get a beard and get older at some point is all we got from that.
Well, I was always really confused by that imagery because, again, Jack, I mean, not that Jack couldn't look like that, but, like, Jack is very strongly, like, Japanese. So it's just, like, it's interesting, like, why would he looked like he was, like, a Roman king or something. It was I don't know, it was just interesting that they chose that as, like, not like an old grizzled samurai or something. Like, I don't know. I always found that when I go back and watch that episode, I always found that image interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I could buy it as maybe at some point prior to when season 5's story starts, maybe he did, have something like that happened, and then, just before he knew it.
He did lose the robes for most of the things, so I guess I could buy that.
Yeah. But I was even getting uneasy and, like, excited, like, this kind of cross-pollination as soon as they got to that area, because I was recognizing, I was like, oh, I know where they are.
I did the same thing. I was just like, I know, right even before Jack said it, I know this place. I'm like, I know this place.
Yep, yeah. I think at that point I was, like, just expecting to see the glasses on the ground.
Oh, it's like, I saw the broken time problem. I was like, no, yep.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that, like, Ashi's kind of pissed off. Like, Jack, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, don't fucking just leave, dude. You don't have to do this. Like, well, I like, even though Jack is in the wrong here, it's just like, I like how he's like, I don't want you to just, oh, I just realized that made me sad.
Yeah.
I don't want you to just be a memory.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, he was self-prophesized. Oh, I didn't even think of. Oh,
yeah.
No, I made myself sad.
Yep. Well,
fuck.
I mean, by this point, everybody So I mean, this has been spoiler city.
I'm sorry if you're watching this. I mean,
assuming you've seen it all, yeah, you know.
Yeah, why are you watching it if you haven't watched the show? Go fucking
Well,
watch the show.
I guess kind of winding down into the sad fate of Ashi, the Aku-Ashi fight was fucking awesome.
Like, I think it's like the twist wasn't super surprising, but I like the fact that it's just like, yeah, they weren't just called the daughters of Aku.
Very well executed, yeah.
Yes, I like that. It wasn't cheesy in the regard. I like Aku's lines where it's like, I smell me.
that whole confrontation where it's like just them together, and it's Jack, Aku, and Ashi, and it's like we're at the important apex at this point. It's like, okay, here we are, and this is, but I remember like my heart was pounding that whole last 5 minutes or so, that whole sequence and that fight and everything.
I love the way Aku comes into the scene after they have that little heartfelt conversation. We'll defeat Aku together, and he's like, Samurai Jack, and then the slow turn, and I'm like, that's sick.
Oh, and Scaramouche's hilariously unceremonious death was fucking great.
That was the funniest timing I have seen in a cartoon. And it was just like instant. Like I love it though. He set it up because it was just like, oh god, he's going to Aku. Like now that we saw Jack get his sword back, I'm like, oh no.
Yep.
Scaramouche is dead.
It's like you're fucked.
It's just like, you also had that fun little moment where it's just like, oh, I bet my life on it. And it's like, okay, there's that. And then he gets his body back, and then they start doing the dance, and then Aku does the dance, like, do.
So much good GIF fodder from this.
Well, I also love the answering machine Aku, who is just like, go away.
I love how we didn't even say that, because you and I joked about this before. I love that, like, the reintroduction of Aku in this show for the first time that we hear him speak is over a fucking phone.
Yep.
Talking to Scaramouche.
Well, and then also he's just like, Scaramouche gets inside, he's like, go away, didn't you see this? And then, I love the fact, again, this is a really great example of Aku still being funny, but also incredibly threatening, where you have that moment where he's just like, Jacko lost his Sordo, and then he just his eyebrows just go out, and his eyes like really wide, and he's like puts his finger right on top of him. He's like, "Are you sure?"
So good.
And it's just like, if you're not sure, you're about to die.
And then he did, and it was hilarious.
Well, yeah, just like, it was like, Jack, you've lost your sword, foolish samurai, and then he just pulls it out.
No, I haven't.
Just like looks over, and he's like, but boss, explodes. And then he goes straight back into conversation like none of this ever happened.
Amazing.
Like, oh, okay, Jack, same time maybe next week. I'm just gonna go. Just whatever. And then of course the actual seriousness comes back. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You girl over there.
Yeah,
what is up with you?
Great ending fight. Great ending shot on the episode. Just fucking terrifying and like heart pounding and really, really well executed. I love 9.
Before we talk about that final illustration, because God, I want that on a wall scroll. But I love the thing where they actually flash back to the cult one more time, and Aku's like, well, there was that one time, and then he literally just gives them a piece of himself, and they of course one thing leads to another. He's like, oh, she actually drank that.
Yeah, that was some Bible Black shit. That was like really disturbing.
Well, it's like it's the equivalent of your God, as it were, giving you a blessing in like physical form, and you're just like, I'm gonna consume this.
Drink my cum.
Oh my god.
Fucking bizarre.
Oh god, Chris.
I mean, no, because I remember you were joking before about how Jack was always alone. One of my friends always jokes about the episode with Ikra when Aku's pretending to be a woman.
Oh my god, Jack got fucking like he got.
One of my friends always jokes about like when he reveals himself and Aku is like, ha ha ha, you're gay now. Aku.
No. The thing that came to mind, I saw some people commenting on this, but it's just like, Jack, every woman that Jack falls in love with is Aku.
Oh my god, that's right. I didn't even put that together.
It either is Aku or is in some way related to Aku.
I was half expecting, okay, I'm gonna jump ahead because fuck it, just while we're on this note. I was expecting the very, very end of the show to be like that, I forget which Batman comic it is, but that one where like, like Batman and Joker are in love and they like commit suicide together or whatever. I was half expecting him to like go find like Aku reincarnated, and he's like, I am returned, and Jack is like, I love you. Or just some weird shit like that.
No. Also, the reason I bring that up, and because I didn't realize, because I had never read the comics for Samurai Jack. Apparently, there's also another. I think, don't quote me on this. If anyone wants to prove me wrong on this, I'm perfectly fine with this. But I think I remember seeing a screenshot where there's literally another woman that I don't know if Jack entirely falls for something, but like really cares about in possibly more than just a friend way. And he's like, I feel like the future is like not so lonely anymore with you, rather than like I think he like puts his thumb across her face and then it's like black underneath.
Oh God.
And it's a coup.
Fucking. Now I'm extra sad. This is a depressing Kirblog.
And like Jack just cannot get away from a coup.
Yeah.
It's like everything I touch is a coup.
Everything I touch becomes evil.
So well, okay, yeah. So then, then you had that kick-ass form. It's like obviously you had the thing. It's just like, oh God, I can't move, Jack. Like I'm being controlled. And then she gets this sick-ass form that like moves in such a creepy way.
Yeah,
and
great design.
I love the animation on that design. It's so spidery.
Yeah.
Like, and she just, cause yeah, her legs do like that unnatural bendy thing, and then she just constantly keeps stabbing, and then Jack is like losing his shit, and then he just drops his sword, and he's like, I can't do this, and then they have that amazing final shot of like mimicking the artwork in the beginning of the series, and I'm like, yes, like I hope that was the original artist that came back to do that. If not, then whatever. But it's just like that would be really cool if that were the case. I bet you it is, but. Mm-hmm. If not, still a wonderful piece of art, whoever made that.
Yeah.
Like, the way that whole thing is shot and the way it pans down, like, having Ashi right there off to the right, and then Jack right on the bottom, like, and it's so beautiful. But yeah, so, that entire, like, last 5 minutes, like you said, very, very tense.
I guess, shall we wrap this up with our thoughts on the last episode of the entire show? All right, so let me kick things off. I want to say I adore the first half of this episode, and overall, I am satisfied with how the show ends. Mm-hmm. And thirdly, I kind of hate myself for not loving the second half of the episode and therefore the ending of the entire series.
Oh, I can tell you why. I mean, that's the thing, because I have mixed feelings about it, because it's like I am extremely happy, and I was like, silent screaming most of the time because of all of these characters I love.
Yeah. Let's start with the first half. Yeah, that whole.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole opening sequence. Yeah, I was like giddy, like clapping, and I was like, oh my God, because I was actually kind of sad that Rothschild didn't show up in I think it was episode 6 with like all the other characters that were coming back, little bit parts and cameos. Like even Demongo had a fucking cameo, and I was like, none of the dogs, really? Because I love Demongo too.
Oh my God, the dogs.
But yeah, when Rothschild got to be in there, and fucking Rob Paulson with his glorious return, I was like, oh, that makes me happy. Like seeing all them again.
They even had the sea people as well, and then they also had like who else didn't show up in the original thing with Ashi? It was
the monkey boy.
Yes, the jump good monkey people. Yeah.
And they all had their original voices and everything. They were all in there.
Well, yeah, okay, so this episode, like, you get into it, and it's just like Aku, like, is broadcasting basically live to, like, everyone, and then you get to say you're having all these really awesome cameos that actually serve a purpose, and being like, look at all these people and creatures that Jack helped, and everything's being broadcast, and they're about to see something really sad because Jack is, and I called it, Jack was chained up in a similar way the way his father was, like not exactly in a ring of fire, but like the way he was pinned to like Aku's firewall or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, like, already I knew, I was excited for what was going to be a stereotypical trope that I don't give a shit. am absolutely on board with. Having like everybody versus everybody in the big final good versus evil battle, that I
because it
love
had
that
a lot
shit.
of weight in that regard, though, because of the fact that like Jack had helped so many people, and also the fact that time is kind of on this show's side in regards to, again, it has been 14 years, so like to have this rush of like, this is like the good kind of nostalgia where you're just like, I remember how great all of these characters were. Like, I loved like all of these have so much more significant value now that I get to see them again. And also like even the like take the dog for example. The dog is still alive but he's older.
Yeah.
And he's like has all of his dog children being like, what's going on? Like,
oh dear.
oh my god, I love the dogs. The dogs. That was actually, again, that's one of my favorite episodes. I mean, of course, I love dogs, but I love that just the whole scenario of that. And also, speaking of like things they got away with, really quick, that particular episode, I don't think people realize that there's crucified dogs in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was such a detail that like got overlooked by like a general audience like at the time because they're much younger. But the fact that they even got away with that. But anyway, so like yeah, you get all of these wonderful characters, and then like they're being broadcast from the one person that everybody hates in this regard, Aku, and then seeing basically as Aku say, your hero, I have captured your hero. Like, let this be a lesson. Never cross me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, yes, this is so good.
Yeah, that, and then of course we have the fucking, it almost reminded me a little bit of the end of Fullmetal Alchemist, where it's like that big like gauntlet battle of like, here's everybody fighting the ultimate evil, all like beating the shit out of him to the best of their ability, and then while also like they're all fighting Aku while Jack is fighting Ashi, and then you have. And then you have the great Scotsman interaction, which I'm glad that they got to at least have one more scene together. And
well, I like how he basically has Scottish ghost powers, and I'm like, this is hilarious. He's using bagpipes,
phantom bagpipes
to save everybody with a wave of power. And I'm like, only in this show, only in this fucking show.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And well, then you also had his daughters, his fucking daughters. That
was a pretty. That was probably the last like good gag at the end. The fucking like giant like 40 screen thing.
Everything else had to kind of be serious at that point because it's just like, this is the last time we're gonna get something in before like Jack kind of has to do his thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, here we go. Well, and also just like, I'm gonna name off every single one of my main daughters.
It's like, pull up the Wikipedia article for all like Scottish women names and just read it off.
I also like, he's just like, hey, he's like, oh, you want to marry one of my daughters? Like, I found someone.
Like, what? Oh, well, my daughters aren't good enough for you. It's like, oh my god.
It's like, oh, who did you find? It's like, oh, she doesn't look your type.
So on the note of her, I guess. So this is we're at the halfway point now. All right. Okay. Here's the thing. I've made statements like this before, and I want to be respectful of this for a number of reasons. Not just because I hate when I have this kind of critical feeling on things. I don't want to be like, well, if I was doing it, I would have done it this way, and then it would have been in a way that I would have liked it better, because that's to me, that's douchey. And also, again, I don't know how much this whole thing differs necessarily compared to, how long he was trying to get the movie off the ground, or like if there were a lot of things in this that like he had been planning. I mean, for all I know, Genndy had been wanting to do all the stuff with Ashi and a lot of these things, for a very, very long time. And this was, finally the opportunity to do it. So I feel bad for picking apart some of this stuff, because it feels like I'm just like shitting on this artistic vision that is really important to this person.
Well, Chris, let me stop you there for a second, because like I feel like you can have those two things coexist though, because it's like you can still be critical of something while understanding why it was done that way. And then also still appreciate why it was done that way, even if you wished it hadn't gone that way. And also, the thing that, well, like I said, I'm gonna let you finish your thoughts on this, and I'm gonna interject.
I'm gonna let you finish. Samurai Jack's the best cartoon of all time. Because it is.
That meme is old.
I never. Okay, let me put it this way. I feel like this is the fairest way I can state this. Conceptually, I really liked Ashi realizing she has Aku's powers. I really liked her being the one to create a time portal because I forgot and thought that was clever.
I actually guessed that. I did. I'm not even gonna bullshit that. I talked to it about a friend. I'm like, wait a minute. If she has Aku basically within her, what's to say if she were able, if they went the route, if she was able to get a hold of herself? Yeah, she should absolutely be able to rip open a time portal, and she fucking did, and that made me really happy because that made logical sense.
Yeah.
Because well, that's the thing. Well, and also because Aku had already said all the other time portals are gone. They're gone. Like, I destroyed every single one of them. He made good on that promise by destroying the one portal we thought couldn't be touched.
Yeah. Like that. Conceptually, loved both those things. I loved, this is something I predicted similarly, that they come back immediately after Jack is sent to the future in the original like second episode or whatever it is, and I loved. Oh, no, it's the first episode. I loved that he comes in after that. I loved that Ashi, as a result of this, because this would make sense logically, disappears as a result of Aku being, erased, and therefore that whole future timeline not existing anymore. Conceptually, I loved all four of those things that I just stated. Execution-wise, I did not.
Well, yeah, there's stuff left to be desired, I think, and I'll tell you, I think why. At least what I think that why also you might not be satisfied with that, because I think it's the same with me. I just think that episode needed more time.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
I think that is it, because I can think of, again, this is a thing of just like a natural progression, not just like, oh, I would do this better, but like I think if that had been allowed to be a two-parter, because I bet you they were only, it's like you can only be signed on for 10 episodes. This is like this is what we're willing to give you.
Yeah.
So it's like you better make the best of this, of what you want to do. So honestly, if that had been able to be an hour long, I think it would have fixed all of that.
It reminds me so much, and I know I talked about this a long time ago when I did a Korra Kirblog. Might have been a couple of years ago now, I think even. It reminds me of exactly the same thing I thought about how I love the first season of Korra, and actually to give,
I knew you were going to bring up that example.
Well, because to give Jack a little bit of slack as well. There were more things about the last episode of Korra that I really was like about compared to the last episode of Samurai Jack. And also, of course, because the later seasons of Korra made up for the feelings of that. But similarly, I was like, season 1, I wish it just had one more episode to space out all the stuff they did in the last like 2 or 3, and I would have loved it, and I feel like it would have been a lot of the things that I was annoyed with would have not been the case. Maybe maybe I'm totally wrong. I have no idea if that's the case or not. But I do agree. I wish that this last bit of story was 2 episodes. Even if like a lot of the second of the potential 2 of them was just Jack being back home, after that and everything, I would have been fine with that too.
See that again. That's the thing. Like I think even I would put money on it that even Genndy knew that like this is the way it had to go down because of the fact he just doesn't have enough time. Otherwise, everything else would have felt rushed previously. Like one episode is gonna have to take the fall for this. It's just like they just couldn't do it as a 2-parter for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's just like I wish it had been, because I can think of multiple things that could have definitely just been spaced out, and it's like, oh my god, the build up on this.
I know. See, and then you get into like, well, then like, do you reprioritize? Like maybe this could have been cut or this could have been shortened or whatever.
It could have screwed up everything else leading up to that. So it's like you go for the best of what you've got, and it's just like I think Genndy gave everything. Him and his team gave everything that like not only do they know that we wanted, but like I think what he could fit in of what he wanted. To be like, all right, while I can't elaborate too much on this because there's so much going on right now, it's like, all right, I'm gonna check, like, not to say check off because that seems like it's like downplaying what happened. Like this was still a great episode otherwise, because I went into it with that, because like I knew The second we got to episode 9 and I saw how it ended, I'm like, all right, I need to go into the last episode. If it has been confirmed for 22 minutes, I definitely need to go into this episode knowing that they are probably just gonna use the time as best as they can, and I'm probably not gonna get the full extent of like that pacing we've had before, because it's just not gonna happen, because otherwise it's just like there's so much you would have to leave out.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a bummer. I'm not gonna lie. And again, I'm upset that I don't absolutely love it, and I don't think it's perfect, because I wish that I did. I wish I could just like be satisfied like
No, that's the
more
thing,
than I
Chris. I
am.
think I think it's actually a good thing to mention that you're not satisfied with it, but that's the thing. We understand why we're not. Well, like, not satisfied is, I don't think, is the right word, because it's like we are happy, the fact that we even got this at all. There's that one thing, and then number two, it's just like, you know what, like, I wish we could have gotten that two-parter, but like Jack got closure. Like, thank God he actually got closure. Like, bittersweet closure, but he got closure.
Yeah, that's why I say that despite despite how this turned out, I am still happy with the ending. I'm happy overall with how everything turned out, and I'm glad. I'm incredibly glad that we got this in the first place. I think it was fantastic that that this was an opportunity that you know
It's once in a lifetime, really. It
yeah,
really is.
like not just the people making it, but even just for us as fans to like be given something as great as this. And I think the best way I can put it, my friend Zach Bellissimo, put it this way. I think he was even tweeting this like yesterday before the episode aired. Regardless of how the ending will be, I still consider Samurai Jack the greatest American animated show of all time, and I would be I would be down to agree that I think that Jack is one of the best in animation history, and
No, I could agree with. I absolutely agree with that. Like I said, that show. It just, again, this is also even taking into account like 1 through 4 as well for all the previous seasons, not just season 5. Season 5 has been outstanding,
yeah,
and like, but it's just like the reason it is outstanding because of what it was able to build off
yeah,
of which was already good.
hmm
Or in some cases, good. It goes from good to exceptional.
yeah.
So it's just like you have this good thing, and you didn't mess it up, and then you made it even a better thing, and you got to finish it. Like, that just doesn't happen normally.
Yeah, and like and again, overall, this last season that we got, it fits. Like it stands, just as well as the original 4 seasons. Have stood the test of time and are all incredible landmarks in animation history. I feel like this season sits. It doesn't feel like, oh, that extra like final season they did that was okay. Like, no, it feels just as good as the entire rest of the show that we got all those years ago, and I'm really, really glad that we got it.
Well, and
So,
also, like, if I could also just point out things that I think would have been extended if we had gotten that two-parter, I think, well, one, obviously Jack would still be fighting Ashi. Let's just say she broke out, and maybe like Aku scurries maybe away for a bit or something. He has to, well, he's still fighting her. But then, like, what if you have all the rest of the characters in some, at least a represent, or maybe not a represent, like one character from each of those individual, not clans, like species or whatever, like all of Jack's friends, as it were, being able to just be like Jack. It would be nice to have a moment where it's just like maybe Jack, like, even though obviously there's all this hectic stuff going on, maybe they're still battling while he's talking to them, because maybe Ashi does put out there that she's gonna make the time, like, able to make the time portal, but then like she still has to fight Aku at the moment, while Jack's like having to talk to the rest of these characters maybe, and then be like, listen, we know what's gonna happen, but you fought so hard to, like, for us, and like all this time, it's like, you deserve to go back to the past if that's your decision. Like, that would have been like a hard decision to like have to make in that regard. Like,
yeah.
and like I think that'd been one thing. Okay, so Jack does make the decision. Now it's just like, okay, they've had time to actually talk it out, where it's just like Jack had to leave them behind in the canon version of events that just happened. So it's just like, you just know they're gone. in some form, or they like we'll never know what exactly happens to them if there's a different version of them now because Aku never happened.
Yeah.
But so then there had been that. So then Jack goes back, and then I would love for him to have to like chase down maybe past Aku and then them finally battle out some way. I think it was the way they did it because like Jack's obviously way more experienced, so it's just like he's gonna kick past Aku's ass no matter what.
Yep.
I think it would have been nice to have the setting changed from outside of his castle. Like he comes back there and then like Aku's scared as hell. Like, oh god, he's back, and then like maybe he injures him like, oh god, okay, I need to go. And then it would be nice to have Jack maybe chase him down, and then like there would have been some maybe really cool visual element for like not so much like I don't want it to be a big final battle because Jack's gonna kick his ass. He's more experienced than Aku.
Yeah.
It would have been a really nice play setting so it didn't feel so quick.
Yeah.
Because it's like we want him to kill Aku, absolutely. Aku deserves to get his ass kicked. So then there's that, and then we can get into like the other stuff after that, where maybe he goes and actually he gets to go. You get to see him go free his father and his whole like civilization. I should say civilization, like his homeland, like go free all of those people, and then you can I wanted him to reconnect with his family, like. We didn't get to see that, and that's something that actually made me a little more sad than just like the quickness of Aku dying. Mm-hmm. It's like I wanted to see him. I'm glad they did come back happily, and like they're not beaten up anymore. But like that would have been so nice if they just had the time to be able to, because like Jack wanted to get back to like save his homeland and see his family again and everything. It's like to actually go back and be the one to free them, and you get to see that. That would have been so powerful.
Yeah, and also all right, fuck it, whatever. I also kind of wish that maybe like the stuff with Ashi with like the wedding or whatever. I don't know. I don't think that them growing to love each other was bad. I don't think that was too forced. I would have liked it if maybe like, I don't know, I guess because also the lapse in logic is, oh, now I'm pointing out that I don't exist because Aku is dead, and then I just magically disappear at this dramatic moment.
No, and I think that was just, again, I agree with you in that regard. It was intentionally done that way for dramatic effect, I think.
Yeah, but if she had faded, like if she was fading out right after Aku was killed, like when they're in the lair or whatever, and then like he has to return home with a broken heart, but like with the victory of like, well, but I saved the world, and then everything's rebuilt and the emperor's back and all that stuff, and then he finds himself.
I have another idea actually. What if you could have it to where, what if Jack has to go chase off after Aku? You're gonna get back to them. He's like, Ashi, please go find my family or something and free them. Maybe. Mm-hmm. So you give a little more time to her, and then maybe she's able to tell him it's just like Jack's like one of the best people that came into my life. Like he saved me, and now I'm gonna be able to save you or something like that. Like I'm not a dialogue scripter, but
I guess.
But I'm saying that would have been. I'm just spitballing ideas here, but like in terms of how maybe it may have been extended, but like or just going off.
They should have hired us to do it. Why didn't they?
No, God, no. Are you kidding me? I can't storyboard. I can't even write shit. No, God, no. God, no.
Well, we're at the end here, so I guess Jourdan, do you have any last kind of parting words about the show in general that you wanna imbue?
I guess right before I do that, there is just one more thing I want to mention. It's just like it was, regardless of any of like the pacing things, and while I understand of course why they were paced that way, it was pretty satisfying to see Aku get a sword plunged through his face.
Hole punched through his face.
Overall though, like I said, regardless of everything I said, this show is so important. This is one of the most important shows ever made. It is a lovingly crafted piece of art.
Yeah.
And there is nothing like it, and I don't think there will ever be anything else like it.
Well, actually, that kind of bleeds into my thing. the biggest thing that I take away from this is I'm glad that this show taught me a lot, like re-taught me a lot about what it is that I love about animated storytelling again in rewatching it. You know, and I you know, I'm gonna take, you know, what it is that I've learned from this and apply it to anything that I want to make in the future, because I think that it is, you know, amongst the best of animation in the world. And again, I'm extremely pleased that it got this opportunity to come back and you know, finish up its story as it was intended to. And you know, and to see, and also, you know what, I was about to say, to see how it already has, how it's going to influence more people, and it already has. I mean, so many people I know that are working in the industry as it is now, including people that have worked with Genndy on, you know, like Hotel Transylvania and other stuff, like that grew up with this show and with all of his shows, you know, and have gone on to be such great artists and creators themselves. I think is fantastic, you know, and I really am excited to see like what the next several generations worth that will hopefully, you know, continue to go back and see the show and see how influential and amazing it is, and how it will impact them in their lives, you know. So just as it does with me. So
if I had just, again, I'm sorry to do like one more thing.
Oh.
But I had this thought because I was again thinking fondly on everything that happened in the show, but I love, and like I said, this is my final thought, but just I love how this is, I would probably consider this a rare example, but like, because you always have like, you know, obviously Samurai Jack has, of course, the themes from Japan and whatnot, and it's just like, you know, our country in America and then like Japan love to borrow from each other. So to see like a Western show that takes so much from, in a good way of course, but like takes so much from like Japanese culture and like, you know, so lovingly like shows off that culture in terms of like this cartoon, and then also of course like this is probably one of the most respectful shows I have ever seen in terms of research.
Yeah, absolutely.
For like just including so many different like just tons of different like avenues for storytelling because of like the research that goes into this show. It's like I said, I can't say more. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful show, and if you haven't watched it, what are you doing here? Go watch it.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, Jordan, thank you for joining me, first of all.
Yeah, no problem, man. This was fun.
Yeah. And you're welcome to come back on a Kirblog anytime you want. We need to do a Sailor Moon one. I'm sorry that I didn't get around to doing that.
I know. We're gonna catch up on stuff, I promise.
Yeah, we gotta watch Crystal. I want to watch more Crystal and judge myself for it. So judge it for myself.
Judge yourself.
Can you tell it? I'm getting tired now. Okay. Anyway, so everybody in the comments below, please let us know your thoughts on Samurai Jack season 5. What did you love? What did you not love? Favorite moments, favorite episodes, favorite character coming back, favorite new character, other than Ashi, obviously, who's ultimate waifu to all of the internet apparently now. Christ's sake.
And also, if there's anything that we might have said that like is incorrect in regards to like maybe certain facts or stuff we might have got wrong,
please correct us.
Yeah, I don't mind that, because it's just like, you know, I sometimes have trouble remembering certain details, but like I love learning about like if I did, you know, get it wrong. So
yeah. So yeah. Give us your thoughts. I don't know what the next Kirblog will be. I think I'm probably going to do a couple shorter ones for the rest of the month, most likely. But whatever they'll be, look forward to them. And if you have suggestions for future Kirblog topics, animation related or otherwise, leave a comment about that too. And Jordan, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Oh goodness. Well, I have a DeviantArt page, though mostly I'm most active on Tumblr right now. It's at HEILOS, Heilos. Don't worry, that's not a misspelling. It's not Helios. It's Heilos. And also same for my Twitter handle. So yes. I post art. I'm working on stuff. Yay.
Oh, I guess I did mention you during the stream we did, but of course you will also be joining us back on the Tome crew again for the Tome RPG that we're working on.
Right, I almost forgot. Yeah, you announced stuff. Yeah, that's right. I've been so busy.
No, it's okay. In fact, I need to actually even get Jordan and our friend Crescent, who's also rejoining us from the series, situated on how we're actually going to be doing that shit.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know by now, I do backgrounds and sometimes animation.
Yes, yes indeed, and she's fantastic. And she animated Kadget, the Shadow Guard Beast, and the Dragon Bug in the last couple episodes of Tome. She's awesome and saved my ass very much in those last few episodes. So, all right, that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to almost 2 hours of this. Holy shit, I was not expecting to go this long on this one.
It's because it's a great show.
Yeah, well, I mean, my God. Thanks a lot, and we will catch you all next time. Fare thee well.
Bye.